If you're just tuning in, this is the World News at 12 on the Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We bring you details of the news headlines now and other stars. The Nigerian Union of Petroleum Natural Gas Workers, Nupeng, has suspended its strike following an agreement with the management of Dangote refinery to recognize workers' rights to unionize. The national president of Nupeng, Williams Akporeha, confirmed this to newsmen. According to him, the Dangote refinery team led by Sayu Dantata agreed to unionize its drivers. He said the meeting was summoned by the Department of State Services. The petroleum tanker drivers on Monday made good their threat to shun fuel loading due to the crisis between them and the Dangote refinery as a result of the unionization of tanker drivers. This was despite an appeal by the federal government that they shelve the plan. In some parts of the country, filling stations were also closed by Nupeng members. Nupeng had on Friday declared its intention to stop loading fuel this week over allegations that the Dangote refinery planned to ban the drivers recruited for its 4,000 trucks from joining the union. The federal government has no immediate plans to implement the 5% fuel surcharge contained in a newly signed Tax Administration Act 2025. Wale Edun, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, said this at the news conference in Abuja. He said that the surcharge was a long-standing provision first introduced in 2007 under the Federal Road Maintenance Agency FEMA Act and not a new tax measure created by President Bola Tinubu administration. According to him, the surcharge's inclusion in the 2025 Act is part of efforts to consolidate and harmonize existing laws for clarity and ease of compliance. Edun said that the new law would not take effect until January 1, 2026, and even then, any implementation of the surcharge will require a formal commencement order by the Minister of Finance published in an official gazette. According to him, government's broader tax reform effort is a long overdue overhaul of the country's fragmented tax system. Edwin said that the Tax Administration Act is one of 4 legislative instruments passed to improve transparency, simplify compliance for individuals and businesses, and modernize revenue collection. The People's Democratic Party (PDP) has criticized an alleged scheme by the clerk of the National Assembly and Senate President Gospel Akpabio to prevent the senator representing Kogi Central, Natasha Akpote-Duagan, from returning to the Senate following her 6-month suspension. In a statement by its National Publicity Secretary Debo Ologunagba, the party described the move as a blatant violation of the 1999 Constitution as amended and the standing rules of the Senate, stressing that using the National Assembly's machinery against a duly elected senator is both unlawful and provocative. Senator Oduagan was suspended on March 6, 2025 after the Senate adopted a committee report accusing her of insubordination for refusing to vacate her assigned seat. The suspension came with the loss of salaries, aids and office privileges. She, however, maintained that her suspension was politically motivated, linking it to a petition she filed against Senate President Akpabio over alleged sexual harassment, an accusation dismissed by the Senate. Akpote-Duagan challenged the suspension in court and secured a judgment in her favor. Acting clerk of the National Assembly, Yahaya Danzaria, insists that the suspension remains in effect pending a Court of Appeal judgment. Anambra State Governor Charles Soludo has ordered the arrest of security operatives involved in the shooting near Emeka of 4 Plazas, Onitsha Main Market. At least 1 person died after task force operatives opened fire in a market in Anambra State on Tuesday. Shortly after the incident, Soludo directed that the suspect be arrested and handed over to the police for prosecution, and that the medical needs of those who sustained injuries be taken care of. This was disclosed in a statement by State Commissioner for Information Law, Mefor. Mefor said the Anambra State government was aware of the disturbance that occurred at the market. The Operation Clean and Healthy Anambra Brigade, otherwise known as Ocha Brigade, is a special enforcement unit created to enforce environmental and sanitation regulations in the state. The Independent National Electoral Commission INEC has expressed readiness to partner the National Bureau of Statistics (NBS) to strengthen the collection, management and use of data for national development. The Commission added that the anticipated partnership was also for key services that would be beneficial and beneficiary to Nigerians. INEC Chairman Mahmoud Yakubu gave the assurance when he received the Statistician General of the Federation, Adeyemi Adeniran, who paid him a courtesy visit in Abuja. Yakubu said that while the NBS managed the nation's largest official database on all aspects of national life, INEC maintained the most extensive database of adult citizens for elections, safeguarded by law and in compliance with the National Data Protection Act. However, he urged the NBS to extend its statistics publications and public engagement with stakeholders to the state of public buildings with the aim of improving them for electoral services. Speaking earlier, Adeniran said that the visit was for the Bureau to collaborate with INEC to ensure that available data within ministries, departments and agencies (MDAs) were harmonized and available for national and industrial usage. The House Committee on Land Transport has issued a 48-hour ultimatum to the Minister of Transportation, Saidu Alkali, to appear before it over the derailment of an Abuja-Kaduna train on August 25. The ultimatum followed the inability of the minister to honor an earlier invitation by the committee on the incident on Tuesday. The Kaduna-bound train was carrying 618 passengers when it derailed. The committee chairperson, Blessing Onu, said it was unacceptable for the minister to turn his back on Nigerians at the time they need him most. The deputy spokesman of the House, Philip Agbese, described the minister's absence as demonstration of incompetence and disregard for the Nigerian people. Also speaking, Rep. Cyril Hunt regretted how Alkali, who was a former parliamentarian, chose to dishonor the House. He said over 618 Nigerians could have died, which raises serious questions about the integrity of the nation's rail infrastructure. The committee unanimously resolved to suspend its hearing until the minister appears in person, warning that continued disregard will be reported directly to the president. You're still listening to the World News at 12 right here on Voice of the People on 90.3 FM. We'll go for a short break. We'll be right back with our analysis. You're still on to the Voice of the People 90.3 FM, the news at 12 right here. Joining me to help analyze the news report is Akin Malolu. He's the president of Yoruba Ronu. Mr. Malolu, thank you very much for joining us on the news.
Yeah, good afternoon.
So let's go straight to the Nupeng strike, where finally it has come to an end, but it was a fight of the titans between oil and gas bigwig, those that you can call the old guard of oil and gas, or what some people may call cabal, and compared to with Dangote refinery, of course the richest man in Africa, and of course the few days that they were on strike, it was the masses that had to bear the brunt of the riots, for lack of a better word.
that Dangote could go to that length where the nation was threatened with his right because of his behavior not to obey labor laws. Nupeng supervises all truckers carrying oil. It is not the WNT or the other RAT1 or all of those road transport association. Nupeng is independent. Any truck, any oil truck, and every oil trucks are under Nupeng guardian. So I don't see how Dangote should feel that it could be independent of the laws and association that created Nupeng to supervise all oil drivers and other ancillary workers of within the oil sector. So he cannot separate himself from the laws. No matter whether it's the richest in the world or the richest in Africa, the law remains the law. When the union knocks, they are knocking for one purpose, for one reason. For the welfare of the workers, to make sure that the conditions of service are truly genuine to promote the welfare of the workers. So there is no way Dangote can escape such a knock on the door of his refinery. When you are bringing in new trucks and you think you can be independent of Nupeng with your drivers driving new trucks, what about their welfare? What about the health insurance? What about many other issues? Even if you are doing them, they want to see them so that you don't renege on some of those things. That is the importance of an association like Nupeng. Nupeng will watch over the welfare of its workforce within the oil sector to make sure that all employers of labor do not casualize to an unreasonable extent. So I'm happy that it has been resolved, but why it was resolved by DSS still surprises me. The Ministry of Labor should have done the needful. Nigerian Labour Congress, NURT, Nupeng, Pengasin, and the TUC. I don't see them listening to DSS. I don't know why. Before this negotiation. No, I'm sorry.
Before we go to that, so we won't jump the gun here. Before we go to that, let's talk more about the issue. Now, we know what Dangote had to go through to establish his refinery, where there was practically a force that were trying very hard to make sure they sabotage his refinery. And well, the unions of these various oil and gas organizations that have been running the country for years, and they've brought down the oil and gas for a country that's as rich as this, and will be going through all this hell that we've been going through. One might say Dangote was trying to cut every single middleman and everything that will probably look like a hindrance or a bottleneck to the smooth operation of his refinery. And he probably thought unionism, that have to do with oil and gas is part of it. He probably doesn't want any link that would anything that will tie him between him and oil and gas cabal or the other oil and gas wealth, including unions.
Thank you very much. You see, when we stop making excuses for industries like that, because you went through here with NMPC, doesn't mean Nupeng causes problem. Doesn't mean Pegasus causes problem. Those are unions. The unions were never part of his problems. And he cannot separate himself from the law. You see, because he's a big man doesn't mean that he has to write roughshod over our laws. The labor union are all registered under our constitutions. They are guided by our laws. Dangote is not bigger than Nigeria, even with all his money. They should respect Nupeng. Nupeng was not part of his problems. Benjamin was not part of his problems, not even Labour Congress or TUC.
Well, not directly.
No, you see, let us call a spade a spade. The workers are not permanently his own. You can fire them, you can put them on casualization. You can hire a company to even supply labor to him. But the crux of the matter is that Nupeng is in charge of such casualization of the drivers' union, oil drivers' union, and they want to make sure that there is no slave labor on foul practices offense the union. To say you want to have your own drivers by yourself, driving 400 and something trucks or 3,000 trucks, Nupeng is not likely to agree. The law is the law. We should not make excuses for Dangote whether he's rich or not. It's not my business. The law must be respected, but whoever wants to flout it must be told in clear terms. But Nupeng is in charge of oil workers.
But this would have been a big deal if Dangote has an history, at least none that I know of, if you have an history of flaunting labor laws. I mean, for all these years with the companies and the workers, I mean, when it comes to business, is number one in Africa. Do we know anything about him having history with workers in this company? If it does, then this will
discuss that. He bought Chevron, he bought Texaco. Both of these companies were under union. The workers were all under union. My company was in charge of maintenance of installation at the Texaco installation at Papa. He is the owner of that installation now. And the workers under him are still under the union. They are both under the management of Dangote, MRS, Chevron, and also under the supervision of the union. He cannot separate himself. If he has friends at the corridors of power, he should not try that with the labor union. They won't agree. Union is not a respecter of those who flout their laws. I have a relationship with the union, that is NOPSI, National Union of Hotel and Personal Service Workers. They will always frown about casualization. So he must give a little, because what they are going to save him from in future, he doesn't know. What if his workers start to go on strike? How will he be able to contain them?
Now,
the intervention of labor is purely for industrial relationship between the employer and the employees. They must knock his door, and they have knocked his door. We should obey them and respect them.
Okay, now let's talk about the other points you raised earlier on, the DSS. The DSS is becoming a much more complicated organization or entity that than it's supposed to be. I mean, as far as we know, the Department of State Services is supposed to be an intelligence organization, and
you see, there's no division of labor in some of the governments we have in Nigeria today. Because when the news broke yesterday evening that DSS intervened, this and that, I was perplexed that we have a government that does not know its function. There's Ministry of Labor there, there's even the NNPC there. The NNPC could have intervened. You see, bringing DSS into every crisis is like a government that does not even understand the meaning of division of labor. DSS is supposed to be monitoring smugglers, terrorists coming into the country through different borders. What is their business with truck drivers and Nupeng and Dangote? They will say it is because of national economy or security threat. No! When government adds a duty and they leave the duty to security agents that are supposed to be doing other things, you see them doing another job that is not even within their their requisite caliber. It's not within their requisite caliber. Let us be sincere with ourselves. What papers are they going to be looking at? What understanding do you know about the labor laws? I'm sorry to say, the Tinubu government disappointed us.
So some may say they were probably invited to act as an intimidation, because I mean there have been allegations of DSS intimidating people. There have been allegations that the federal government used them to silence dissent. I mean, even as a journalist, we're usually warned by our employers sometimes, like, be careful what you say, because I don't have the time and money and energy to come and start running after you in DSS custody, so probably because of the reputation, whether true or false, that they've garnered, they were probably invited for intimidation. And the big question will be, to intimidate who? Is it the labor unions or Dangote?
The labor union. I remember when the Nigerian Labour Congress president went to Imo about a year or so ago. It was brutalized, if you could remember. Intimidation does not solve problems. It is a monarchical government that does that. We are in a democracy. This is tyranny. For how long will DSS be formed? If we have let me tell you the truth. We have made a statement when Okugbe was cornered at the international airport in Nigeria here, and he was going to be given to EFCC. But he has no business with them, and they released him. We said it clearly in a press statement that if a reasonable government comes, we shall match the DSS with Nigerian police as CID. They are just CID before. When we were separated not too long ago, it's not over 15 years ago, they were CID before under police force. So we should not start decorating them as if they are all in all, they are bigger than the country and bigger than our laws. The Nigerian Labour Congress should frown at this. The TUC should frown at this. Nupeng should frown at this, even if they have resolved it. Where is the agreement? What have they resolved? If there is no agreement, a concrete agreement, this problem will come over again. But if a reasonable government is on ground, I can tell you, if I belong to a reasonable government, I will give them that emphasis that on no condition but DSS be found in any court in the land. Whatever intelligence reports that they have gathered, it should be given to the police. They should turn over their suspects to the police. We have allowed too many things to go wrong. And that was what Socrates said. Democracy will fall because it allows many things.
Now let's quickly go to the second topic for discussion, where, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan is on the news again. And there's been a whole lot of drama. This time, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has criticized an alleged scheme by the clerk of the National Assembly and Senate President Godswill Akpabio to prevent the senator from returning to the Senate following her 6-month suspension. Now, 2 days ago, her lawyer came out to say the senator who will be returning to the National Assembly when the Senate reconvenes, and by then, if my calculation is right, a suspension would have been due. In other words, whatever the court's judgment at this time, one may say it's a little invalid considering the suspension is ending anyway. But then the clerk of the National Assembly, Yahaya Danzaria, insisted that the suspension remains in effect pending a court of appeal judgment. It looks like the National Assembly is becoming much more dramatic. The Senate, to be precise, is becoming much more dramatic than they should be.
Natasha was suspended around March for 6 months. Before the suspension, she went to court to stop the suspension. They still suspended her.
Yes.
While the court process was still on. If they do not respect the court process at that time and they suspended her, and they are citing court process now. You see, I used to say one thing. Leadership is about laying down what is right. It's about turning around what can bring prosperity. It's about considering what can bring law and order. We have seen a Senate that is neither intelligent nor should I say well informed. But they see themselves first before they see the law. That means the Senate of Nigeria that we have today are bigger than the rules and their laws. It's unfortunate that after 6 months, because she's a woman, I remember when they suspended Senator Ningi, they recalled the man. He never served his time before they recalled him back. But this is a woman. This is a woman suppressed, oppressed, with all the allegations she made. But I must confess something to you. She's in the caliber of my fella's mother, Madam Kuti. She's in the caliber of many women leaders who led riots and stood up against evil in this country. I doff my hat to her. Give or take, she will resume. Give or take, she will resume. Probably a court of law will compel them to recall her.
Now, for the first time, it looks like the People's Democratic Party is beginning to stand up for her after what I would call a deafening silence from them. But the big question is, what about the PDP legislatures in the House? What are they doing to fight for her? I mean, they've been silenced. Besides the factions that have gone on, the PDP is still a huge force. There may be the minority in the House. They are still a huge force in the Senate, and we don't get to see the lawmakers from the People's Democratic Party, both at the Senate, at the House of Reps, coming out to even say anything, fight and defend her to the best of their ability. They've just all been quiet, and it looks like she's been fighting, a battle of our own. Even the women in the National Assembly, as few as they are, which should have made them bound together, they've just been on their own. And you even got to see some women, that's why there've been some people that have come out to say women are their own problems, because of their own problems. You even see some women even come out to say some nasty things about her, including Senator Florence Itagiwa, that said that she's too big to be accusing someone of sexual harassment, which is a very terrible thing to say. What are the lawmakers from the PDP doing to support her and fight for her? Nothing, some may say.
If you go back a bit before the issue of I think the 6 months of emergency rule in Rivers will be due very soon to be over. It happened at almost the same time with the other ones. What were the actions of the PDP senators and House of Reps members? They sat down in lukewarm attitude. They never cared. They abused the Constitution to make that emergency stay, and you are expecting them to do the same thing for Natasha. It was all by herself. It was the society, the Nigerian people, that stood by her.
The PDP is indeed a shadow of his former self.
Of course, when you have people who perhaps do not know the meaning of governance, do not know the meaning of oversight functions, all they do is we have constituency projects. I wish there is a government that will cancel this constituency project, both from the local, the state assembly and federal assembly. I wish there is a government that can remove this. I don't know what to call the money, legal fraud as a fraud on the Nigerian people. You see, when money rules the conscience of lawmakers, they won't understand the law or the rules anymore. That is the type of Senate we have today. And I'm very convinced that in future things will change.
Thank you very much, Mr. Malalu. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Solomon Ofem. Thank you, listeners.
That was Akin Malalu, the president of Yoruba Ronu.